Welcome to AMA Media.2.0. I hope you find here what you were looking for. Thumbs up the video, share and subscribe if you haven't yet. Now let's get it. Enjoy. Finally, Anansi headed to his home to visit his mother Yaranseer, and reminded her of his agreement with the sky god to exchange her as part of the price for AmA's stories. Anansi's mother complied with him, and the spider then carried her alongside Moesha to AmA, presenting both of them to AmA to complete the bargain for the sky god stories. AmA accepted both of them, thoroughly impressed at the success of the spider, and assembled a meeting within his kingdom. The sky god summoned his elders, the Kontire and Akoman chiefs, the Odontum general of his army's main body, the Gyase, the Oyoko, Ankobia, and finally Kyadam, who led his rear guard. AmA then told them about the task Anansi had accomplished when none else, not even the greatest kingdoms, could afford his stories. Anansi and the dispersal of wisdom. Another popular story tells of how Anansi once tried to hoard all of the world's wisdom in a pot, in some versions a calabash. In this story, Anansi was already very clever, but he wanted more knowledge, so he decided to gather all the wisdom that he could find and keep it in a safe place. Soon Anansi collected all of the wisdom found throughout the world and sealed inside of a pot. However, he was still concerned that it was not safe enough. So he secretly took the pot to a tall thorny tree in the forest, in some versions the silk cotton tree. His younger son, Intikuma, saw him go and followed him at some distance to see what he was doing. Intikuma noticed the pot was much bigger than Anansi could handle. He couldn't hold it while trying to climb the tree. As a result, Anansi tied the pot in front of him and then resumed his attempt. Yet, the pot still obscured Anansi and caused him to slip down the tree as he climbed. Each failure caused Anansi to become increasingly frustrated. Intikuma laughed when he saw what Anansi was doing. "Why don't you tie the pot behind you? Then you will be able to grip the tree," he suggested. Anansi was so annoyed by his failed attempts and the realization that his child was right that the pot slipped from his possession. The pot soon crashed into the ground, and all of the wisdom that the spider had stored inside of it spilled out of it. To make matters even worse, a storm arrived and caused a mighty rain throughout the forest. The deluge of rainwater covered the ground and washed the wisdom that had spilled away from them, until it washed into the river stream nearby. The currents of the stream carried the wisdom Anansi had collected out to sea, and soon it spread throughout the entire world, ruining Anansi's plan and making his goal impossible. This angered the spider. Anansi then chased his son Intikuma home throughout the rain. But he soon came to an epiphany and accepted his loss once he finally caught up with his son. What is the use of all that wisdom if a young child still needs to put you right? Thus, Anansi failed to steal the world's wisdom that day, and instead, a little of it lives in everyone. How Anansi's hind became big, and how his head became small. One day, a famine came and Kwaku Anansi told his family that he'd search for food so they could eat. He soon went to a stream and met some people, who he discovered were spirits. The spirits were draining the water in the hope that they would be able to catch some fish to eat. Anansi was intrigued and asked if he could join him, and the spirits in turn gave him their permission. The spirits were using their skulls to drain the river, and when Anansi approached, the spirits asked if they could remove his as well. Anansi said they could, and they did so, giving him his skull so that he could join them. While they drained the water, the spirits sang a beautiful song. We, the spirits, when we splash the riverbed dry to catch fish, we use our heads to splash the water. Oh, the spirits. We are splashing the water. The song intrigued Anansi and he asked if he could sing it also. They allowed him, and together they continued to sing until they finally drained some of the stream. The spirits gave Anansi his own share of fish in a basket and restored his skull, but warned him never to sing the song again on that day, or his skull would open and fall off again. Anansi said that he had no reason to sing it again, because they'd given him more than enough to eat and he wanted nothing else. The spirits bade him farewell, and Anansi went away. The spirits soon left, and went elsewhere to catch more fish. Soon, the spirits began singing their song again, and Anansi eventually heard it. He began to sing it again, and as soon as he finished, his skull fell off again like they'd warned him. Anansi picked his skull up in embarrassment and cried out to the spirits that his head had fallen off. The spirits heard him, and decided to return to him, to hear him explain himself. Anansi begged them for help and apologized to them, asking them to restore his skull. The spirits said they would, but warned Anansi that if he disobeyed him again, they would not return to help him, and bade him leave before heading off on their own. Yet, just as soon as they'd left, Anansi heard them singing their song and repeated it himself. Anansi's skull detached and fell again, having disobeyed the spirits another time. Before it hit the ground, he caught it with its rear end and he fled from the riverside. So it is that Anansi has a small head and a large bottom, because of his hard-headedness. So AmA thanks you for tuning in. Please leave a comment. Grantani until the next video. Peace and much love to all.